enjoy this moment, because right now, no one saw this coming.
I think Jamie Carragher is looking over his shoulder. At the start of the season, I remember him saying, you know, this isn't a young and exciting team. And I think if there's two words that completely describe this team, it's young and exciting.
Jadon Sancho is starting to show what he's got ability-wise. At £25 million that we paid, or will be paying, that is not a risk.
His weight of pass into the box to assist and to create for others is so underrated. Neto, for me, is in really good form. He's a brilliant crosser of the ball, which I think we're not really getting full advantage of because of the lack of aerial threat in the box.
When you get that culture, everyone wants to start in this Chelsea team. And you can see that. Everyone wants to be there.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside Chelsea, the show for Chelsea fans by Chelsea fans. I'm Leonie Carpenter and I'm joined by former Chelsea defender Jason Cundy and broadcaster Matisse Armani. Good to see you guys. I can't stop smiling, guys. I can't stop. On Sunday, I was there. It was unbelievable. I felt all the emotions. I got soaked on the way there. We had a police car go by me. Puddle, soaked, got punched in the face during a celebration, in a good way. But my word, over to you guys, but it was unbelievable. What did you guys think?
I can imagine. The limbs in the Chelsea away end at Tottenham, when you go there and you assert yourselves, you win a football match in that fashion as well, coming from behind when we had a really shaky start to the game. There's nothing like it. It's honestly, it's the best feeling in the world.
And it's Spurs. It's one of those games that you know you're going to go into a battle because it's always Chelsea Spurs. The emotion that's got... I think it's Chelsea's biggest game of the season. That up there with Liverpool away, but what a Sunday. And the way we did it as well. And we deserved it. It's one of those we absolutely deserve the game.
Got to ask you guys, what are your highlights of that game?
Oh, it ranges. I love the Sancho goal was massive because at that point, I was doing the comms and 2-0 down, you can still see there's a little bit of light. You can still find a way back into the game. If we went 3-0 down, and I didn't feel we deserved to be 3-0 down, but that's the reality of it, that goal was massive. And that was the goal that sent... you watched the atmosphere. You were there, Leonie, right? I could feel the atmosphere in the ground change. It went quiet. Everyone knew, we ain't played that well. We've been given 2 gifts. We're 2-0 up. Now it's 2-1. Chelsea are back in this game, and that was massive, that goal.
Yeah, for me, seeing Enzo left foot, just clean ball striking ability into that bottom corner, a player that this season was under a lot of pressure. A lot of people are asking for G&A, they're looking for statistics. We know him as more of a pass master, a line breaker, and for him to kind of go on this run of form right now and come with crucial goals and big moments, and a moment like that as the captain as well, it doesn't get any better. So. But also you have Palmer's Panenka. I mean, the audacity to just do that at Tottenham, you really are taking the mick.
I like the fact because when you come to Chelsea, there's been a lot of change at our club to still get and understand how big a game this is. And I felt that the players got it. Enzo got it. He knew it. He knew how big this was. Maresca also knew. And I love the fact that has made it into the squad. This is a game we cannot lose, and you saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned him earlier, Cole Palmer. I mean, I saw both penalties. Obviously, I took a video of the second one, not knowing what he was going to do, and it was unbelievable. But I've got to read some of these stats because it just makes me happy, and I'm sure it makes everyone else happy. But 38 Premier League goals and assists in 2024, more than any other player, 8 ahead of Salah and 10 ahead of Saka and Haaland. Harry Kane holds the record for most goals and assists in a calendar year with 46. Chelsea have 4 Premier League games left in 2024.
What are you saying, Leonie? What are you saying? What are you suggesting?
I'm going to discuss.
The boy's special. There's no doubt about it. The boy is special. Even when he doesn't have his greatest games, he still has an influence on the game. I mean, the Enzo goal that he scored, Estragosan that he got out on that left-hand side, on the right-hand side, and just the way he chops and he drops the shoulder, because he's a big lad, he's a tall boy, he's so nimble. And when he goes and he drops, he manages to twist and turn. He's got such control of the ball and he dips his shoulder and goes. And to get him behind as easily as he did, and that contributed to Enzo's goal. But the boy's special, nothing phases him. His interviews afterwards, hilarious.
Oh, brilliant.
It's almost like the game, everything's going on around him, and he's like, Yeah. I just did that even on his comment on the penalty.
Chipped it. Yeah, I just decided to chip it. I looked at the clock and thought, I'll just chip it. And everybody else is like, you do realise you're playing with our lives. This is a life or death situation for a lot of the fans right now. We're really nervous. And he's just like, well, I'll just chip it, won't I?
I could barely stand when I was watching it. I know how I felt. Yeah. But just have the composure. Look, he's a special talent, this kid.
Do you know who he reminds me of? You know Juan Mata in that 12-13 season when we won the Europa League and he was just playing with Torres and putting everything on a plate. Just the way that he's able to kind of go through players and in tight spaces, just make room for himself. He plays the game at his pace. Yeah. He doesn't really care about Premier League pace. He plays at his pace, and that's what I love about him.
And I was going to say, is it that carefree attitude that makes him so successful? Well,
it's a song we sing, isn't it? You know, he knows exactly what he's doing, the kid. I mean, he's a great player to have to be one of your main stars because... And I think Maresca said it as well. There's no ego. He hasn't changed since he was in the academy. He's not one of these players that gets too amongst his own hype and believes everything that he hears or sees. He's just on the same level every time, turns up and just performs. And that's what you need in a young group.
Yeah. When we go back to that penalty, though, the Panenka, what is he thinking, do you reckon, Jace? Because we've seen him in interviews afterwards. All he's thinking is he wants to score. And in that moment, he goes, all right, I'll just chip it.
Yeah, He obviously thinks about what he's about to do, but it comes naturally. He doesn't overthink things. He looked up. In the last minute, this is something that you've heard before from penalty takers. Pirlo did one against England when Joe Hart was in goal and he Panenka'd it. This was in a penalty shootout. We got knocked out. And afterwards, Pirlo said he looked at Joe Hart and he said, there's no way he's standing still. He's going to dive because he was so busy on the... I think he's just looked at that and gone, you're going to move. I've looked at the clock because it's hard for a goalkeeper at that point just to stand there at that particular moment. I don't think he overthinks it. I think it comes naturally and he deals with it in his own pace.
Yeah, he set the record for most consecutive penalties scored and I bank on him every time to take it and to put it in. And these high-pressure moments, we saw it last season with City against his old club to make it 4-4. We've seen it against United in that massive 4-3 game at the Bridge as well. Doing it in these moments, it should never be, underestimated. Lampard used to do it all the time for us. And, when we get to those finals and, remember the Champions League final and all these things, these are the type of players that you want taking your penalties. So it's a big trait for him to have. It's very important.
He's the coolest man there.
I was going to say, in your playing days, Jace, which wasn't that long ago...
It was.
Was there anyone that you played with that had that sort of free attitude that you could compare him to?
No, he's special. He's almost a one-off because he obviously knows how good he is because he's got this ability, because he shows off what he's got under the bonnet. But I don't think I've ever seen anyone quite so laid back in those moments that are crucial. You just said it there, Matisse. He's got our lives in his hands.
I was there.
Right? And we know how crucial that is. That was the daylight that we needed. That it should have been easier than it was towards the end, but they got the third goal. But wouldn't want anyone else ever to have taken a penalty other than him. So we're very lucky. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Absolutely. And just looking at that game again, how important is it to beat Spurs?
It's crucial because we have found ourselves in a situation that no one envisaged. No one saw this. OK, Liverpool didn't play at the weekend because of the game was called off. Arsenal just seemed to be tripping a little bit at the moment. We found ourselves in second. But to us to have because City dropped points, Arsenal dropped points. We were the team going into that game, the only one that could close the gap on Liverpool. Now, there's a lot of conjecture about can Chelsea win the title? Are we in a title race? We'd probably have that conversation in a second. All we're doing, enjoy this moment, because right now, no one saw this coming. Mm-hmm. No one saw Chelsea second in the table, and we've got a run of fixtures now that on paper are favourable. I'm not going to say easy, but favourable. If we can come into the new year and we go there and we're second, we'll have that conversation as we go into towards January and February about what this Chelsea team looks like at the end of the season.
Yeah, and a really interesting point about this Chelsea team right now is the midfield, Matisse. So where do you see Caicedo playing his best? Is it down to the opposition? What about Enzo with Caicedo? Like, how do you see it? What's the better option for you?
Yeah, I think it will be horses for courses in regards to the different games we've got coming up, because it is different types of opposition, whether they're adventurous and they press us, whether they decide to allow us to have time on the ball, or as Spurs showed that, they were going to basically, go gung-ho and have a bit of a basketball game. So for me, the manager said it so many times as well, it's good to just have those options and to go in between all of them, because you don't want to be predictable. And I think with Enzo, he's given Cole Palmer a little bit more time and space. We were saying in the big games earlier on in the season, Cole Palmer's being double, triple teamed. Now with Enzo in those pockets, which wasn't really taking that risk in those other games, Palmer's getting more space. Enzo's now a threat in front of goal, and people are saying, right, now I've got to, watch both of them. And that's allowing Caicedo and Lavia to be the destroyers or the more physical players that he wants in there to win the duels. And they're also press resistant. This is what I love. In Lavia in that first half, so press resistant. Anytime they fizzed the ball into him, he's just taking a touch, he's turning, he got elbowed in the side of the head. That could have been a sending off. I know people speak about Caicedo's, but we've got some seriously talented midfielders. And I always bang on about Andre Santos, who's having a great loan at Strasbourg. When he comes into the mix, then we're going to be, very fortunate. Very fortunate.
What about you, Jace? What do you think about the midfield?
I love the fact that he can just put in Caicedo at right back, and what that does, that accommodates both Lavia and Enzo. Because Lavia is too good to drop. Enzo's in the form of his Chelsea career right now. And then, so he's had a problem at right back because we've seen Cucurella play there, we've seen Gusto play there. Obviously, Reece James is injured at the moment. It solves a lot of problems because you still get your best players, on the pitch, and you get them in the best areas, the best positions, because you play that inverted fullback. Second half changed a little bit because Gusto came on. Cucurella was the one that came in. So that changes the dynamic again. So it's difficult to say what the best team is because, like Matisse just said, there's no one-size-fits-all. He's better in this position because there will be games coming over Christmas where teams will sit deep. There'll be teams that don't press. Therefore, shuffle your pack. I want to see Enzo in this team right now. Yeah. And I wouldn't have said that 6 weeks ago. Yeah. Would not have said that. So he's sold it. I said that last week. He's getting a lot of things right, Maresca. Yeah. He's getting a lot of these decisions right. And they don't seem like, at the time, they don't seem big decisions because you've got to play someone at right back, but he's getting the right personnel in the right place to make the team better. And it's a pleasure to watch right now.
Depending on the opposition, at what point would you start Malo Gusto as right back?
I think there'll become a time where the workload comes in, minutes on the pitch. The lads are going out to Kazakhstan. Yeah. And that's the B team. Who plays in that, we will see. I think that you will see over this period, there will be players that come in and out. Neto's suspended for the next game. Yeah. So therefore, it's almost certainly it's going to be Madueke one side, and
maybe Sancho on the left.
So then Neto comes back. So I think that there will be moments that over Christmas expect to see a different team. But that's where, look, Gusto's been brilliant for us, right?
Yeah. Last season he was fantastic.
But when we played Man United away earlier, and he was that inverted fullback, him and Madueke linked up really well. But once Gusto gets into those areas, it's not naturally his game. But
central, yeah.
No, but what we're seeing now, we're now seeing Enzo do that job. Yeah. Palmer on the slightly right of in behind Jackson.
I think it's the key for him is to figure out the right balance in defence because now there's no Wesley Fofana, who's our fastest defender, really good recovery. He played Badiashile there. He struggled in terms of the press. He was getting pressed into areas he didn't want to be in, going into that left foot and playing really dangerous balls into midfield, which we got caught out a couple of times. If he can get that right blend, and I always say Reece James for that right side centre-back role, not only physically, but, aerially, he could have done that role really well where you're not getting up and down, but he's obviously out. If he can get that balance right and find out who he wants to play next to Levi Colwell, whether it's Tosin or it's Gusto in that right side centre-back or it's, Disasi, and then obviously you've got Cucurella who'll play on that left-back. I think once he gets that balance, then we'll know exactly what the midfield is, but it's tough.
Well, there's options, isn't there? And something that Maresca's getting really right is he's having the players get on so well with each other. He's instilling this really nice culture at Chelsea, something that we've not seen for a few years. And I know from going to games home and away, you can see it on the pitch, and as soon as the final whistle goes, yes, it helps when you win, but you can really see an appreciation there and a connection with the fans as well. What do you make of this culture we're seeing at the minute and the team, and how do you think Maresca has really helped to instil that?
It feels like Thomas Tuchel times a little bit again, where the fans are singing his name, the fans are completely entrenched in every... when you listen to his press conferences, you're hanging on every word. He explains the game so well. He gives us the tactical flexibility, like we're saying in game, where you're like, he's thinking on his feet, he's making the early subs, he's proactive, and he's been ruthless. He's spoken about players publicly when he's needed to, trying to, get a bit extra out of them. I think he's managed the squad really well. I think he's been fantastic. He hasn't put a foot wrong yet. Now, obviously, we know there's going to be trials and tribulations along the way. Every manager has them. Chelsea, there's always something around the corner where you've got to react. But at the moment, as you said earlier, just enjoy it, because you're either stressed because you're in mid-table, which we were, or you're stressed because you're in a title race. In the next couple of years, definitely we will be, or going for trophies, last stage is Champions League again. That's stress as well. This is the only time as a Chelsea fan you're not actually stressed. Just enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's that good.
That's it, and it does seem like they're all getting on so well, doesn't it?
It does, when you look at them celebrate afterwards, there is a camaraderie that I can really feel and get the sense that because most of them are very young boys, right? We're talking, early to mid-20s. That's a nice, there's a band of brothers in there. That's what it feels like. I think Maresca needs a huge amount of credit, because not enough is going to be made of this season. Slot is going to take all the credit, and understandably so, because where Liverpool are. I think that you talk about manager of the year so far, I think Maresca has to be in that conversation because of the chaotic club that we were or perceived to be. It wasn't that long ago. Egbali and Bowley apparently are trying to buy one another out. There was bickering upstairs from what we can gather. The bloated squad, having players have to go out on loan, having to fit this player in. That noise is so... And I think that Maresca is the man that's made all of that happen. Plus, he's made sure that this squad is the harmonious squad. And do you know what? It's one of those, I want to play in the next game. Yeah. I want to be part of this. It feels like he's made that culture. I want to be very much part of that, and well done him.
Absolutely, and what I love about him as well, at the end of the game, we'll all be chanting his name. He's got a cracking chant now. But he will then step aside and let the players have their moment. And I think that's just a really wholesome thing to do as a manager. And he seems to have that. He's brilliantly, with tactics, he's brilliant at reading the game. And like you say, in his press conferences, fantastic. But he also has that really nice human nature about him, which we love to see.
We saw against Southampton, right, where he came on the pitch. You were there. And he there, I think it's the first time he came out, and because it's difficult for Maresca, because he knows what Chelsea Football Club has been like with managers. There is that sack 'em, move on type of culture that's been there. And it must be difficult because he's come in, it's his first managerial role, and he's got this squad of players, incredibly talented squad of players. How do I get this squad into an 11 and get them functioning in the right way? And it feels like now that we've really taken Maresca to our hearts now, and that's a tough thing to do in such a short space of time at a club like Chelsea.
Yeah, like you say, short space of time as well. Have you ever experienced a really good culture at a club, Jake?
I have, yeah. And when I first broke into Chelsea's first team, I came through the youth team with likes of Graham Stewart, Eddie Newton, Frank Sinclair, Gareth Hall, Dave Lee, Graham Rousseau. All of these lads that we grew up together. And we come through the youth team, into the reserve team, into the first team. Damien Matthews, another lad. That was a really special time because we were all young, in our early 20s, playing for Chelsea. It was brilliant. And I get that sense that that's what we're experiencing now. They love wearing the shirt. Yeah.
And how difficult do you think that is for a manager to bring all these players who are coming from around the world and create this amazing culture?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's so difficult to get it right. So easy to get it wrong. Yes. But it's so difficult to get it right. And he's making the big decisions. He's getting those decisions right. There are players that he's leaving out, players he's bringing in. And more often than not, he gets that right. And like we said, after the game, I know it's easy when you won, but there is definitely a sense that there's a real camaraderie about what we're doing now. These boys love being together. Yeah. I had Cole Palmer saying, he's messaging Jackson, about certain things, and Casado. There's a real team, bond.
Yeah.
100%. It's funny because it's really just individual errors or little mistakes that are, costing us some goals. Otherwise, we could be winning games, I think, even more comfortably. There's definitely levels still to go. And that's the thing with Maresca, is that because it is his first season and he's been able to put this system together, if there are problems or, things that need changing, he's straight onto it. This is just the beginning. There's improvement to be made. There's still... ways to go for this team. So I think he's done a fantastic job. Really, really good.
Let's talk about someone who is slightly controversial for Chelsea fans, Jamie Carragher. He's made some comments recently talking about it's no underdog story. We spent 1.2 billion. Firstly, Matisse, what do you think about those comments? And secondly, is this an underdog story?
I think Jamie Carragher is definitely you said it earlier, looking over the shoulder. Liverpool, you know, and then Chelsea a second. And at the start of the season, I remember him saying, you know, this isn't a young and exciting team. And I think if there's two words that completely describe this team, it's young, youngest average age squad in the league, and exciting. Because we were conceding goals last year at a record rate, and we were scoring goals. So we are exciting. For the neutral, everybody loves watching us, you know? So I think with him, it's just, he's had to backtrack a little bit on his initial opinion at the start of the season. He didn't want players going to Chelsea. He was saying, why would you join Chelsea? And now it's starting to look like we are a very good team. And he's having to, you know, change his stance a little bit, his position. So even on comms, you can hear it. He doesn't enjoy those Chelsea goals the same way. It's fine. But at the end of the day, Chelsea they're proving a lot of people wrong. Even myself as a fan, I didn't expect us to be in this position. I looked at our summer and I thought, it's some good business here and there. I like the fact that we've signed some experienced players like Neto, and you've brought Sancho in as well. But it did feel a bit fragile in terms of the team, the physicality. You know, did we have the right balance? Did we have too many, you know, technical, you know, playmaker type players? Did we have enough substance about us? They're doing brilliantly. So yeah, it's tough for Jamie.
I don't. Who said that we're underdogs?
Well, this is it. We were saying this earlier.
No one said that.
But
That's not a phrase that I've heard. I think, look, it wasn't that long ago. Chelsea were fair game for a good kicking because of what happened to the football club. There did seem, from the outside looking in, there was a scattergun approach to signings. Look, we signed Koulibaly, we signed Sterling, we signed Aubameyang. Then you look fast forward, next transfer window. Those players there are experienced in the late 20s. Now you look at the transfer policy, what changed? We then started buying young potential. Now, potential's only one thing. You've got to realise that potential. And I think Jamie Carragher got caught up a little bit because of how much money was spent. It was an easy thing to stick the boot in because the club was in a little bit of chaos. There was so much change. It was unprecedented. No other football club has ever been sanctioned before. We went through this huge change and shift. And in name only is it the same club now. Roman left. Now we have the new owners come in, completely overhauled of the squad. And it's easy, I think, at that time. 105 million for him, 115 million for him. And all of a sudden now, it's calm. Because the results, and there's a structure to the club, there's a structure to the team, there's a structure in behind. Maresca deserves a huge amount of credit. There will be bumps in the road because we're a young team, still very much a young team. Fast forward this team in 3-4 years' time, can't wait to see what that looks like.
If this Chelsea team go on to achieve the success that, at the end of the day, the money was outlaid to do so, right? To be the best team in the country, and they get themselves into a rhythm and a pattern of, you know, producing young players, bringing in young players at lower fees on lower wages. You look at how other clubs have got players on high wages that they can't shift. You look at Manchester United. You look at, you know, even Arsenal. Some of the players. We have got a lot of players. We gave Cole Palmer a new contract. Still doesn't come anywhere close to some of the highest wage earners in the league. If we can keep that sort of sensible behaviour about us in terms of our wage structure, then and we win trophies along the way, then we're gonna look a lot better for it. And we've made a lot of money on sales as well. I think a lot of people forget that. Maatson going out, Lewis Hall going out. You know, we do produce. You know, yeah, we do bring in a lot of money as well. So
can I just both question here, right? Of all the players that have come in, it wasn't that long ago, people were asking some serious questions about how much money was spent. I think Mudryk's the only one right now that hasn't quite reached where we want him to be. I think it's fair to say the rest of them have.
The rest of them, especially the big fee ones, yeah,
you know?
For sure.
OK, mate, look, Badiashile and Disasi, still waiting for those two to develop into the players that we hope they will, but...
You're going to get some wrong along the way as well.
It's inevitable. Yeah. Every manager gets decisions wrong. Yeah. Sir Alex would have got some signings wrong.
Off the back of that, do you think our transfer, the way that we've done everything, do you think it's not getting the credit that it deserves?
I don't think it does get the credit that it deserves right now, but at the end of the season we'll have this conversation because we still need to see what this team and squad looks like under Maresca. Maresca deserves, as we said, huge amount of credit. But when you think about the policy, buying young, long contracts on lower wages, that's something that Matisse is absolutely right about. How is that going to look in 2 to 3 years' time? At the moment, all we can do is just give praise on, and you know, Win Stanley and Stewart. It's like no one's really mentioned them. Those boys took a huge amount of stick in the media about the transfer policy, how they're getting it right. Well, so far, so good.
They've done a great job on selecting the manager. That's something that we can 100% say. You know, when you look at Maresca coming in from Leicester, Championship coming up to
move,
Chelsea.
right?
It's a bold move.
Yeah.
It's a massive move.
move,
It's his first big job.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure, especially after last season. Pochettino, a lot of the fans were struggling to connect and to really relate in terms of him being an ex-Spurs manager and obviously some of the beatings we took, cup final, etc. For them to go and make that appointment, it showed that, listen, they've got their own mind, they've got their own way of doing things, and if they do get it right, which at the moment it's looking like they will, they do deserve credit for that.
Yeah.
And how much credit does Maresca deserve as a manager who's come in, he's got all these players, he's had to make them gel quite quickly as well. You know, we know we've got a new manager again this season. How much pressure do you think was under him to be successful with it?
I think with Maresca, he, for me at least, because I didn't know him too well coming into the job, I thought, well, it's a gamble, and if it doesn't work, then the directors will have to take responsibility because they appointed him. They took that gamble. For him, it did feel fast-tracked. It did feel like, wow, you're going from Leicester to Chelsea. This is your first job in the Premier League, first job at this level. I didn't put too much pressure on him because I didn't know if he was ready or not, and I think we just had to wait to find out. But the way that he's adapted to the job, and not only just tactically, but then the way that he carries himself, like we said, the way that he's not afraid to call out players. You know, he said, Reece James, I want your leadership to be better. Madueke, I want you to train better. He's not afraid to call out players. And the fact that they've responded and they haven't, you know, gone the other way and been immature about it and say, right, I'm going to, you know, strop and strut, that shows that he's got the respect of the squad. And usually you need a CV and Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues under your belt, winning titles to have that type of respect, to command that respect at Chelsea. For him to come in and just get it, very impressive.
Also, in front of the media, he's excellent.
Yeah.
You know, he's under Graham Potter. I think the spotlight was too bright for him. Maresca doesn't seem to have that problem at all. Deals with the media very, very well.
Yeah. And in terms of the players in the team as well, how successful has he been with getting such a young squad together and getting them playing?
I think that's the biggest thing, Leonie. I think that's the one that, because young players will make mistakes. That's not young people make mistakes, but you will find that there will be moments this season. There will be bumps in the road. I promise every Chelsea fan that. But he has managed to get the best out of Lavia. I mean, Lavia's a big miss last year. I think we can all reflect on Lavia being missing for so long for the injury, and that maybe Pochettino the season might have looked a bit different. Who knows? But he's brought Lavia in. He's getting Caicedo in. He's getting Enzo in, and he's finding he's getting the best out of pretty much everyone right now.
Someone who he is getting a lot of success out of is Nick Jackson.
Yeah.
Now, we know he's had a great season so far. We've seen the improvement as Chelsea fans who watch him week in, week out. We did see him come off against Tottenham. He was emotional. And you could visibly see he had his shirt over his face. He wasn't happy. Yeah. Do you think that shows a lack of maturity, or do you think it's just he just wants to be playing?
I think I'm going to go the other way. And for me, at Chelsea, the strikers that do the best are the ones with big personalities. I look at Drogba, I look at Diego Costa. They have emotion. They are a little bit sometimes loose cannons. I'd rather you be that way and almost show publicly that you are disappointed with your performance and that you do want to contribute and do want to, you know, impress, than go into a shell and be quiet and be kind of timid. Because if you are that type of striker at Chelsea, it just never works. And I think with Nicolas Jackson, he's demanding more from himself, and he does want to, he's spoken about before, I want to hit the 20 goals, I want to, you know, be the leading figure up front. And we need that. We need someone to take responsibility. And to play that role at that age, at Chelsea, I always say the striker and the goalkeeping position is the two positions. There's no get out of jail card on Monopoly. You know, there's no freebie. You are under the light. If you miss your chances, if you make mistakes, you cost your team goals and you cost your team points. So for me, I'm fine with him doing that. I think Maresca's got that situation. I don't think it is too much of a situation. I think he's got him under control, and I expect him to bounce back next game.
Yeah. I mean, he was visibly upset coming off the pitch, but after the game, we saw Maresca run straight up to him and get him involved with the celebrations with the fans. How important was that for Maresca to do that for the player himself?
Well, he recognised it, Leonie, and I'm trying to get into Jackson's head that maybe there was an element of, but it was such a brilliant win, and it was such a great day to be a Chelsea fan, a Chelsea player. Maybe he felt he didn't quite contribute to that the way he wanted to. If you rewind 12 months, he scored a hat-trick there. He was very much the main guy. He was the reason we won. And I think maybe there was a little bit of that reflecting on what happened last year in a great victory. This year, didn't quite have the impact. It wasn't his greatest game, I think it's fair to say. You know, that's fine. But you look around the pitch, everyone's talking about Cole Palmer, Enzo, Lavia, Casado. They're the names that roll off the tongue who played well. Maybe there's a bit of that we felt, I want to be big. I want to be a bigger part of this. I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Do you think at a certain point he did show his age by not immediately going to celebrate with the rest of the team?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's as I said, this is an immature team, and I mean that. I don't mean immature in the fact that we will make mistakes. There will be moments in games, decision making. I think there's an element of that. Matisse makes a great point. We want players to be like that. Certainly our centre forwards. There needs to be a little bit of devil about you. There needs to be a bit of emotion up top. I don't think it's anything to worry about. Maresca recognised it, dealt with it, move on. Look, if he scores 2 goals on Sunday evening, no one will care.
Exactly. He cares, though, doesn't he? That's the thing.
Yeah.
He cares, and that's what we want to see. Also, he did show maturity, though, when Enzo scored that wonderful goal, which was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Went to take his shirt off. Jackson's like, whoa, no, we're not getting the yellow. How did you feel about that moment?
Do you know what? When that happened initially, I thought, when sometimes a player scores and they're going to do a certain celebration, they might do a cartwheel or backflip. I thought he was just trying to rein him in and bring him in and, almost, kill his buzz. But come to see that is the reason.
It looked like he was keeping shot, didn't it?
Yeah. Listen, Jackson is great because he's always involved in the celebrations. He's always one to kind of either mimic or copy someone else's celebration or to kind of point to someone. And I think he was like, kissing one of the boots of the players. I think it was Enzo after the free kick against Aston Villa. He was there like, lauding him and whatnot. So, yeah, he was just in the right place at the right time. Well done to him.
No, exactly. And we don't want any more yellow cards, do we?
No,
we're on the edge
we are on
with
the edge
that,
already,
so
yeah.
we don't want that. Someone who has been really impressive is Jadon Sancho. How impressed were you with him against Tottenham?
He was excellent. Him and Cucurella linked up really well, other than the 2 slips that Cucurella had.
Yeah, it's funny we've not mentioned that so far.
But that goal, I made the point earlier, that goal, you can't underestimate how big it is. I think if you go in at half-time 2-0 down, the 2 managers have 2 very different team talks. And Jadon Sancho is starting to show what he's got ability-wise. And he's had a bit of a tricky career if you think about how it's gone. Brilliant at Dortmund. Obviously, a huge transfer fee during COVID they wanted, north of £110 million. Man United didn't pay it. They paid about 75, I believe. At £25 million that we paid, or will be paying, that is not a risk. That's not a risk. For a young English player, that is not a risk. And there is still more to come. And again, Maresca needs a huge amount of credit. He's got a lot of options. He's got Madueke. He's got Neto. He's got, you think about the choices that he has in those wide areas. Mudryk. He's getting those decisions right. It's when to play Jadon, when not to play Jadon. And he will start because of Neto's suspension. So he will start off that left-hand side. He's a very different winger to the likes of Neto and the other. He's not as quick as those other 3, but his footwork and his ability to link up play, I think there's only more to come from him and look excited about what we're going to see. I
saw an interview with him as well, and the players are actually encouraging him to shoot now, which is lovely to see, which goes back to that culture again.
Yeah.
But Matisse, is he a bargain for us?
100%. 100%. This is a player that was, touted for 100 million from Dortmund to Manchester United. It's a player that's performed in the Champions League even last season with Dortmund as well. And he's a player that you can tell he's come through the City Academy. He looks after the ball incredibly well. And I think we needed that because when you're trying to play a heavy possession-based team, you have risk takers, but you've also got players that you can rely upon with their first touch, with their, decision-making to make the right weight of pass as well. I think his weight of pass into the box to assist and to create for others is so underrated. And his shooting was always there. We saw it at Dortmund. He was able to contribute with goals as well as set up goals for Erling Haaland. And if he starts to, 2 goals in the last 2 games, Southampton, Tottenham, if he starts to really get confident in front of goal, taking those shots, then we've got a really good player on our hands. And I think with Sancho, it was never a question of how good he was technically. It was just mentally, is he ready to play at this level with this pressure in the Premier League and be consistent and prove Manchester United wrong. And at the moment, he's doing that. 100%.
I think we spoke earlier about horses for courses. I think he's very much in the camp when teams sit deeper or there's a defensive outlook from the opposition. I think Jadon Sancho comes into his own. I think when a team comes onto you and there's a bit of space in behind, the goal that we scored when Neto gets it in behind the Palmer ball where he gets and the crosses. I think Jackson scored it.
Yeah.
That not necessarily Jadon's game because he's not as quick and as electric. But I think where teams sit deep, there's less space to operate in. I think that's where he comes in.
I was going to ask you, Jace, were you surprised to see him in the starting 11 against Spurs?
Surprised, not really the right word. You could make a case to say Neto out there and Madueke. I think Neto is our best winger on the right-hand side. For me, I think him and Madueke are definitely fighting for that. But Neto can play left. No, I wasn't surprised. Pleased for him actually because, like I said, that goal was enormous. I know that they're all big, but for me to get that goal and he took some responsibility there. Cut inside. He had a lot of work to because he receives the ball really wide. He comes off the touchline, and then they allow him to come and kept going. He just before he pulls the trigger, he holds his shot because he just allows the ball to run across him again, opens up the goal, and it's a brilliant finish. But no, definitely not surprised.
No. We saw Felix start midweek against Southampton. He played against Leicester as well. He's had some good games recently. He's another player that is competing for that left wing spot. So the competition is fierce at the moment, and he's another player that's quite nimble, quite technical, loves a nutmeg against low blocks as well. You'd see him come into the frame. Chelsea got a lot of options. I do think next summer when Esteval and a lot of talk about him, all these other wingers and attacking midfielders, someone is going to have to go, And they're fighting for their place at Chelsea right now, and I think they kind of know that because Chelsea are so ready to bring in players at any given opportunity.
No, definitely. And someone that Jace mentioned was Noni Madueke. Were you surprised not to see him in the starting 11 against Spurs?
I think with Noni, it's about the press conferences from Maresca in regards to training, because he's always tracking back this season. I think that was something he vastly improved on last season. But Maresca saying that when he gets a goal, when he gets an assist, he kind of sees a drop or he sees a little bit of a level not being maintained. That for me was, okay, Tottenham, maybe not then, because Neto for me is in really good form. He's a brilliant crosser of the ball, which I think we're not really getting full advantage of because of the lack of aerial threat in the box. If we can improve upon that, going into next season, we're going to see a lot more assists from Neto and a lot more chance creation. But both of them are fighting for that position because none of them have shown yet that they can be a consistent goal output threat and give us maybe 10, 15 goals in a season and give us the Saka or Salah numbers. And if they can, whoever does that first, I think, will be closer to starting every game.
Does it ever concern you, both of you, I'll ask this question really quickly, that we have so many areas where we have players that succeed and do well in? We're creating this healthy competition at the minute, but does it ever concern you that there may be issues down the line?
Choice is never a bad thing, but too much choice might be. But, you're looking at Mudryk. Mudryk can't get anywhere near this starting 11 right now. Can't get anywhere near it. And for him, that's a problem. Matisse made the point that someone might have to make way. Right now, you would suggest that he is possibly the one when other players come in. I think competition for places at a club like Chelsea is absolutely crucial. You need that. You cannot have complacency. You cannot have players expecting to start every single game. There are one or two that you know are going to start when they're fit. Casado ticks that box. Jackson ticks that box. But they're all over the pitch right now. There is real competition. Yeah. And I think that is a healthy thing to have. And Maresca's got to manage that because he's got to keep everyone happy. And in a team like Chelsea, when you're winning, it's fine. Yeah. When maybe a few bumps in the road come along, that's where he's going to really earn his money. How does he keep everyone in this squad happy?
Have you ever experienced that in a club that you've played with, when you've got a bit of unhappiness in terms of competition?
Not quite like that. But when I was at Ipswich, we were winning every game at 2 or 3 goals. We were on an absolute roll, and at that moment, when you're in the team, you knew we got to make sure, because there was other players that were ready to come in, more in the attacking areas, I would probably say. But like I said, it's when you get that culture, everyone wants to start in this Chelsea team. And you can see that. Everyone wants to be there. You look at Manchester United and other clubs right now that are struggling, you don't sense that everyone there, it feels like a bit of a chore. At the moment, it doesn't feel like a chore for this Chelsea squad. They want to be in there. And like I said, it feels like there's a band of brothers.
For me, results always keep things calm. you look at the lack of briefings, the lack of reports, the lack of, like you said, unrest that we've had over the last couple of years. We were seeing reports coming out every week about managers or about owners or about players. Agents start to drip feed things in. When you're winning games, no player can really come to the manager and say, why am I not here? Why am I not there? Because at the end of the day, we're getting results. And I think that goes from top to bottom. Directors, nobody is being spoken about in a negative way if we're getting results. And as long as we're picking up wins, everything else takes care of itself. If the results go the wrong way, then people are looking for reasons why. And that's when, you start to get a bit of unrest and some question marks. But I think for those players that are looking to go to the World Cup, especially if their nations qualify and they're all in good positions, that's where next summer people within that squad who are not playing very well, who have not played much this season, are going to have a decision and say, are we going to get enough game time in a World Cup year to make our squads?
Yeah, that might well be a little bit of a problem. You're talking about Nkunku.
Yeah.
Right? Nowhere near enough minutes for him right now. Felix, okay, nowhere near enough minutes. He wants to be playing every single week. This is what he's been used to throughout his career. Same with Mudryk, another one. These boys now, they've got to find their way. They're in the B team. They've got to find a way from getting out of that B team into the A team. And we've seen it already. Neto, early part of the season, Neto was not in Chelsea's first starting 11. So it's about when the opportunity presents itself. I go back to the game Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. I thought we were poor that day. Number of disappointing performances. When you're given a chance, you've got to take it. And I think on that night, some of the lads didn't quite do themselves justice.
FA Cup will be massive for this squad.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a nice fixture for us, right?
At home against Morecambe.
You'd expect to see the B team.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you think there would ever be a time when those players you mentioned will get fed up with not getting minutes?
Yeah.
And also, how do you think Maresca would deal with that situation?
I think it's inevitable that when you're a player of the quality of players like Felix, in particular in Nkunku, there's a lot of talk about him. His agents have pretty much said that he's not happy. Why would you be happy? You can't be happy on the sideline. You can't be happy not in the starting 11. And you can't be happy at times because when there are subs made, he's down the pecking order at times as well. Look, I think the club will find themselves in a situation further down the line. And understandably, if I'm Mudryk and I'm not playing every week, where's my career going? I need to be playing it. And he's too good not to be playing. Unfortunately, right now, there's players ahead of him that deserve to be in the team ahead of him.
How do you think Maresca would deal with that, Matisse?
Well, I guess this will be the first time we really see it as a real test, because at Leicester, he didn't have this issue to really navigate through or to really, be judged on. But I think he's shown over the summer, and maybe it is a wider club kind of policy, as ruthless as it may be, and sometimes, you think, is that a bit too harsh, freezing out players or leaving them in the academy building or, putting them in a separate group. But at the end of the day, they've shown that if there is an issue or there is a uncertainty, they're gonna move you on. You look at Lukaku last summer, they were adamant. There was no change in mind. They were going to find a way and move him on. So I like that in a sense, because Chelsea, we have been known for being ruthless under Roman Abramovich, and we have been known to be a bit cutthroat. We've done it before, but you just got to bring the trophies in as well. You can't be like that and not win, or be like that and not have success, because then it just looks like a ruthless organisation with no winning and no success, and then it's just where's the good part of it? So I think they will.
The have shown, haven't they, that they will. If the price is right, they'll sell.
Yeah.
They've shown that.
Well, someone who is showing their price tag at the moment is our Enzo Fernandez. Now, we know he had a change in his personal life.
By all accounts.
But there you go, Jace knows. We won't go into it though, Jace. Not today, after the show.
I've been there.
But 9 goals and assists in 6 games. Is he really showing to be the player that we bought? And is he really showing to be a captain now?
Right now, we are seeing the best of Enzo. No one can live up to a price tag of £100 million, but it's almost impossible unless you are Messi or Ronaldo. But if you park the price tag for a second, right now we are seeing a player that is fit. Last year he played with a hernia and struggled. Beginning of last season, I thought he was good, really good. And then, for whatever reason, his form dipped. I believe the injury had an impact on that. He had a hernia, had an operation at the back end of last season. His personal life is his personal life. Things have changed there. He looks happy. I think also we are seeing the best of him because I think the way the system is set up with the inverted fullback, it allows him to go and be that number 8. He has a lot of qualities. The one thing he doesn't have is lots of pace. Getting around a pitch, his endeavour is brilliant. He's got, you can see he's one of those players I spoke earlier about, wants to be in this team, enjoy being part of what this club is doing and where we're going. And I think that there's a number of things that looks fit, looks happy. Also, the system out, I think now we're getting the best out of him because he's one of those players that has a number of jobs. Defensively, that's not his forte. But when you've got Lavia and Caicedo in there, that's the insurance policy that he can then go and do what he wants to do higher up the pitch, and that's what we're seeing.
It's all kind of clicking together, isn't it? What do you make of him, Matisse?
Yeah, having more bodies in midfield and having this kind of box midfield, and we outnumbered Tottenham massively in the way that they set up with their system in that 4-3-3 to begin with. I was kind of shocked with Postecoglou that he didn't put an extra body in there like he did against City. He had Kulusevski in a free roll out wide on the right and then just tucking in. The amount of time and space we had to just pick our passes, and it was one pass or one flick round the corner, and then there's just acres of space. And when you give someone like Enzo Fernandez that time and space, he's gonna play the right pass or he's gonna take the shot now as well. And I think the key with him that I'm most impressed with is not necessarily the what he does on the ball, because he was always a technically gifted player when we saw him at Argentina or Benfica, in a very heavy possession dominant team. It's off the ball that he is getting the ground deals. And when you look at the ground deals and you look at the overall ball winning ability of the midfield, they're all chipping in. None of them are a Makalele or a Kante or a Matic, but they're all getting stuck in. Or maybe Caicedo, Caicedo's putting up some crazy numbers this season, but everybody's doing their part and playing their role. And I think that's important. They've all got to put a shift in. And the work rate, Maresca said it before, if you don't work hard, don't even come to me about being in this team. And I think they're all understanding that. You look at the work rate of Felix as well over the last few weeks in Premier League games. He's been getting into good positions defensively, taking up the position he has to be off the ball in the press. And I've been very impressed with our off-the-ball press in the Southampton game. That was easier with the build-up with Russell Martin, but in the Villa game, unbelievable as well. So, yeah.
I think there's also something to be said, the fact that Cole Palmer's received special treatment. I think there is an element to double up on him. And consequently, I think there is a chance for Enzo to find a little bit more space. I mean, you think about the goal he scored. He's wandered in on the edge of the box, right? No one's near him. Why? Palmer's out on that right-hand side. They're trying to stop him. There's 3 or 4 around him. Cunts inside. And as soon as he comes inside, Enzo's got so much more space. And I think there is an element to say that Palmer is being watched so much that it frees up a little bit more space for the likes of Enzo, and that goal kind of proves it, really.
Yeah, and maybe a change in attitude as well. I mean, we've seen him step up a little bit more now. We saw him get dropped before. He's come back into the team and he's proven that he's a Chelsea player. And you saw the celebration when he scored. It was... you felt it. You felt it so much. It was brilliant.
If you asked me 6 weeks ago, can you find a position for Caicedo, Lavia and Enzo in the same team, I wouldn't have been able to square that circle. But right now, and the absence of Reece, wish him all the best, of course, and finding a position for Caicedo that not only can he still defensively be solid at right back, he can invert, and that's where his best position is. And then you get Lavia together, and that allows Enzo to go and join Cole in behind Jackson. It's quite smooth, actually, the way it's working at the moment.
Yeah.
We like smooth, don't we? We love smooth. OK, that's it for another episode of Inside Chelsea. We'll be back next Tuesday. As always, if you want to get involved, post your comments below and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you very much again for your company, Jason and Matisse. It's been a great show. We'll see you next time. All together now.
Up the shelves. Come on.